Okay, let's start by making sure we feel comfortable navigating the space. So here's a quick reminder of how we do this. If you feel you're already a master at camera controls, then you can skip this step. Use the left stick to move forwards, backwards, left or right. Use the right stick to look in a different direction. If I hold down L1, I can now use the left stick to move up and down instead of forward and backward. We use the L1 button a lot to alter the functionality of other buttons, much like a shift key on a computer keyboard. So if you ever hear me accidentally say shift, you'll know I mean L1. This level is pretty large, and it's pretty slow using this method if you want to get to the other side of the track, for example. So let's remind ourselves of some quicker ways of moving around. If I position my imp tip over a place I want to go, I can hold down L1 and tap R1. This will zip us there in an instant. Finally, another useful method is to position your imp tip over a place you want to go to, just like before, except this time hold R1, which will lock your imp onto whatever you are hovering over. You can now use the left stick to zoom in and out and the right stick to orbit around the point you grabbed. Using this method, you can also use the motion sensor in your controller by physically moving the whole thing to orbit around the point you grabbed. This is a very nice method once you get used to it. Have a go. It's worth spending time with these techniques until you feel comfortable moving around. When you feel you're getting the hang of it, click the big arrow and we'll do the next step. Okay, you should be confident about moving around with camera controls now, so let's start changing the actual scene. Before we do that though, you may have noticed lots of these little bright cubes scattered around. These are gadgets. We don't need to see them for now, so let's hide them. Go to the menu, find the Show Hide button, and make sure electronics are turned off. That'll make things a bit clearer. Okay, let's start changing the track layout. In this step, I'll be talking about deleting, moving, and... Okay, let's start changing the gadgets. Now, so let's hide them. Go to the menu, find the Show Hide button, and make sure electronics are turned off. That'll make things a bit clearer. Okay, let's start changing the track layout. In this step, I'll be talking about deleting, moving, and cloning. If you feel you're already a master of these techniques, then feel free to skip this step. A really easy thing to do is just delete some bits. Position your imp tip over a module. You'll see it highlight to show which thing you're over, and then you can simply press the triangle button to delete it. You'll also find a delete tool in the menu. Remember, use the square button to show or hide the menu. In the Tools menu, you'll find the Delete tool, but I suggest you try to remember the shortcut buttons. It will make for a far more fluid experience, and this is a masterclass after all. Sometimes you'll notice these little white outlines that remain. These were added as an artistic choice using paint mode after the various track modules were placed. If you want to learn more about painting, then check out the art tutorials. But for now, feel free to just delete them if you wish. It won't affect how the scene plays either way. And remember, you can use the left and right directional buttons to undo or redo your actions. We can also really easily move any of the pieces in the scene. Move is the default tool for the imp in edit mode. You'll know the imp has this tool equipped by the icon on its tip, you should see these 4 arrows. If you see something else, then you have another tool equipped, but you can easily lose it by pressing the circle button to get back to the move tool. So, to move something, position the imp tip over the bit you want to move, then press and hold R2 to grab it. Now you can move it. Note that you can still use the sticks to navigate the scene while holding an object. You can also select a bunch of things using the X button, and then move or delete them all at the same time. Just press X on each bit you want to select, or hold down X and swipe over all the bits you want to select. Press the circle button to unselect everything you've selected. Cloning things in the scene is a quick and easy way to start adding things. To do this, simply hold down L1. Remember, we treat L1 like a shift key on a computer keyboard. Then grab using R2 as before and move it. This will make a copy. To try out any of the changes you make, press the Options button to bring up the Options menu and select the Play Mode icon. Then we can test what we've just done. Press the Options button again and select Edit Mode to go back and make more changes. When coming back into Edit Mode from testing your scene, you can choose to rewind time so that everything is back in its starting state and the character is back in the starting position. So just press this button in the menu or use the L3 button for a shortcut. But you don't have to rewind time when you come back into Edit Mode. Sometimes it's useful to make modifications as you go along, switch back into Play Mode and carry on from where you left off. I suggest you have a little practice. Modify the scene a bit, move some things, copy some things, clone some things. And when you feel confident, we'll go on to the next step. Hello again. I know some of you out there like to be all neat and tidy, line things up, keep things at right angles, etc. If this is you, then you can use the various guides to make you feel less itchy. Grid Snap is most useful for this. Look in the menu under Guides. Turn on Grid Snap with X, and then you can make the grid coarser or finer. Now, when you move an object, you'll see that it snaps to a grid. Menu under Guides. Turn on Grid Snap with X, and then you can make the grid coarser or finer. Now, when you move an object, you'll see that it snaps to a grid. Turning on Obey Auto Guides will also help with moving and placing stuff. It literally means behave as you do in the home space. Depending on which item you select, it will try to make it easier to place for you. This behavior is determined by the creator of each individual item, with a gadget we'll discuss elsewhere. In most cases, it will make the object align to the surface of other objects. Go ahead, have a practice at using the guides, then when you're ready, we'll move on to the next step. This behave as you do in the home space. Depending on which item you select, it will try to make it easier to place for you. This behavior is determined by the creator of each individual item, with a gadget behave as you do in the home space. Depending on which item you select, it will try to make it easier to place for you. This behavior is determined by the creator of each individual item, with a gadget we'll discuss elsewhere. In most cases, it will make the object align to the surface of other objects. Go ahead, have a practice at using the guides, then when you're ready, we'll move on to the next step. So, let's add some new objects to the scene without using the clone tool. If you can't see your menu, remember to press the square button to make it appear. For some new objects, we'll need to go and search the Dreamiverse. Do that by clicking this button on the assembly menu. You can go looking for whatever you want, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll stick to the Dreamiverse collection. So make sure you're in there. Go in and choose a bounce pad with X. You can now stamp some objects into the scene using either X or R2, whichever you prefer. Let's turn on Obey Auto Guides so it's easier to put these things on the floor. Go to the menu, select Guides, then Obey Auto Guides. Let's get another object, a balloon. Now, make sure all the guides are off and stamp a balloon in the air. Before I stamp it though, note that I can rotate it using the touchpad. Just slide your finger on the touchpad in different directions to rotate it. While we're on the subject of rotating, let me show some other ways to do this. Try grabbing something by holding R2, then use the touchpad to rotate it, just like we did before we stamped the balloon. Another way is to grab and hold with L2 instead of R2. You can now rotate the object using the motion sensor by physically rotating your controller. Note that it rotates around the point you grabbed with the imp tip. And finally, using the L2 grab method, you can also use the left and right sticks to rotate. If you rotate using the left and right sticks like this, the gyro method, by which I mean using the motion sensor, will be disabled until you re-grab. So go ahead, try putting some new elements into the scene. Once you're comfortable with this, you know all you need to know to go off and put some new scenes together. Go to Dream Shaping, start a new game scene, and use other people's objects and characters you find in the Dreamiverse. This will get you a long way. If you feel like learning some more though, stick around and hit next when ready.
Oh my god, it's so much easier. Oh no, the shred's here. Shit, I don't know where it goes.
So, by now you know how to build a scene from scratch. But let's explore a really quick and easy way to add some movement and bring your scenes to life. Let's animate a part of the track using Dream's very own special version of motion capture. Make sure time is paused and that you have rewound the scene. First off, find something you feel could do with a bit of movement in it. Then grab it with R2 and practice the movement you'd like it to do. Remember, you can use the left directional button to undo if you accidentally leave it in an odd place. Don't be too precious right now. We'll learn how to be more precise later on. Let's just get something moving to learn the principle. Okay, when you feel you've got a good idea of what movement you're going to do, open the menu with the square button, find the animate button, and grab yourself an action recorder. You'll now have an action recorder gadget on the end of your imp. You may notice that all other gadgets in the scene have appeared, if you'd previously hidden them. We want to see gadgets now, so this is